Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Maureen O'Neill, and this is just a short introductory video in reference to accessing the Qualtrics platform and just the initial one on a step-by-step guide of how to really easily build your initial survey in Qualtrics. So to begin with, I'll just share my screen and you'll be able to see exactly where we're going to with these particular screens. The first one actually is our own, myself and Sarah Booth, who's my colleague, my business colleague with Legwork Consultancy. So you can see that we do qualitative data software. And importantly, we have started writing blogs about how to take your open-ended questions out of Qualtrics and use them in the tools of NVivo. And that's simply by accessing our website, and there's an ebook there for literature reviews as well that you can try before you buy, and then see if the tools would be suitable. But coming into Qualtrics, every university has their own license, and for those that are doing it through ACU, to access it, you will use it through the ACU Qualtrics.com login, and you'll see that you simply just put in your username, your password, and sign in. Now, just give the platform a little bit of time to come up. Just say yes there, and you'll see that it will enter you into the platform in just a little time when it comes up, and it will be able to give you a comprehensive view of the surveys that are in your particular platform and the ones that have been shared with you. As you can see, here's mine, so I'll just give you a little tour through what I've built. I've built quite a few, as you can see, but if there's any that are coming from my students or from any of my research team, it's always in the left-hand corner in the Share With Me. The ones that I will be doing the workshop on will come to you via this particular tab, which is Share With Me. All your other ones that you actually create will be in your All Projects. Now, if you want to create your own survey after this session, you simply press on Create the Project, which is a button here on the top link, and you can put a project name to it, a folder, and then you can start creating your project. But I've already started that by sharing one with you called Feedback, and you will see that it only approximately, on the front part of your platform, it gives you some very imperative information about how many question types you have or questions within your survey, the response time that the computer estimates that it will take, and the languages that I've actually produced it in. On the right-hand side tab, there's a drop-down, as you can see with me, which is the main functions that you need to use with distributing the survey, activating it, renaming the project, copying it, translating it, most importantly, reviewing your reports that are coming out of your data and your final reports, deleting any of the project that you want to, or even using the data and analysis, which is a more advanced tab, and that allows you to take the responses once you've finished and deactivated the survey, to be able to export it into a format that you can use in any of your quantitative platforms, such as the main one being SPSS. You can edit your data from here, and certainly you can actually get a distribution link from all this main platform here. But let's just go straight in and start accessing the project that I've sent to you. So let's just go into the project. And that's just by clicking on the front panel there, as you can see, and it will come up. Now, today I've just done one that allows a different variety of question types to be initially looked at. And one of the ones that's really important that is always being asked of me is, how do I edit the content so that it's presentable or in the way that I like it to my particular participants? And that's simply by getting used to and practicing what's called the rich content editor. Now, as you can see, I always put a front panel. If I click on this front panel, you don't have to, but You may want to put an introduction letter or just a few welcome lines, or abide by any of your ethical considerations from your ethical committee in there. Today I just put in a very simple introduction. As you can see, I just clicked by clicking on the actual question, a little box with rich content editor, pipe text, remove formatting, and normal view comes up. Normal view is what you'll see as the question. Rich content editor will allow you, if I click it here, to go in and modify and to change exactly what you need to. You can shine over any of this and change it to italics. I'll shine back over it again and make it all italics, I think, or not, and come back in and italicize it, and it'll come up. There seems to be, and so you can just play with it as you do normally with your own editing skills in Word, and it allows you to come up and to actually edit, so that you've got various ways of editing. And maybe even in this section here, there's the R and E that need to go to italicized, so now it's italicized. You can change it and use any of these tabs up here. I can change it back to automatic black, as you can see, or I can change it back to bold. Now, the important thing here, you can see that I've put in a little graphic. Some surveys you like to personalize it by your own logo there, or perhaps putting in an emoticon or something that identifies your particular survey. As you can see, ACU, I upload a new graphic according to any of the surveys that I do. It's quite easy. The main thing is you can use the panel there, or you can use a distribution letter at the same time. But as you can see, I've built a very basic one. I haven't put it into blocks because some surveys go out in blocks. That means that the participant will enter one block, such as demographics, and then go to open-ended questions. And that's a very well-designed flow. But some, you just want a basic survey and you want to build it all within the other, so you build it all into one block. Here I've started with just basic questions. The first one being a multiple choice. As you can see up here on the right-hand corner the question types. Now, just by a drop down on the type of question type, you'll get all sorts of images come up as to what that particular type of question is. Now, you want to design your question according to what data you need out of it. If I wanted a heat map, or if I wanted gap analysis, this is for marketing, I could use those sorts of ones. If I wanted a slider, but again, you really have to design your question types according to the type of data that you need out. Now, in this particular question, I certainly needed just a multiple choice to give me exactly the types of faculties. I've made this up, so just the type of faculty they may come from, whether you need to have it at the type of look, if you want to spread your questions vertically, horizontally. If you just click a button, you can see that it go horizontally. Anything that I do, I can undo by simply going back to the other button. You can see that there's a whole range of tools that you can use. One of the things that I'm asked about is validation options, and one of them is forcing your questions for your participants. You can do that, or you can leave it unforced. It's according to what data that you really need from that participant. And if you force a response, it means that at the end of the page, before they go on in their survey, the participants must answer, and it gives them a prompt to go back and answer. So that's certainly up to you. So there's all sorts of different types of questions. There's all sorts of different types of ways that you can get the responses from the participants. For example, down in this last section here, you'll see something called display logic and skip logic. I really like this because it directs the participant and also your data to what you need to collect. For example, if I had different types of respondents that had different characteristics, and one needed to be directed to one set of questions and one to another, I can do that by skip and display logic. Skip logic skips them to the question that they need to answer according to what they're in. For example, let's take primary and secondary, or here, HDR candidate in US staff. I want the HDR candidate to skip to perhaps the status, And I may want the USC staff to skip straight to, because you know they're probably whatever, you know, in status, to prior understanding, which is 2 questions down. So you would simply shine on the question and add skip logic, which will come in. You just add the skip logic and it will give you a series of which question you need to have the skip logic and where that participant who selects that particular type of question needs to go to. And then going further down, you'll see that there are different types of questions. Now, any of these, which is beautiful, you can actually, it gives you lots of options to either copy a question that you've already designed, you think I want another one of those and I don't want to have to re-input everything, then you do so. The other way that I bring up my questions is always having a Word doc available here, which allows me to have a script. And on the script, I have the options that can actually come out in the data analysis. So I've already spell checked this, made sure that it's working properly. So it really does help when I'm doing that. So I always have that as a backup. And importantly, you can move questions up and down according to where you think they fit in the survey. And that's just simply by going down here. For example, I may think that age needs to come before gender. I just simply click it and it actually puts it up and it reverts the question numbers, as you can see. You can create a new question, or you can copy or import question types that you've had in other surveys, as you can see down here by these tabs. You can actually add a block. For example, if I wanted to add the demographics here as a new block at the end of the question, I just simply go in to add a new block and it will give me that survey flow. Importantly, one of the questions I'm asked is the accessibility and visibility on mobile devices of your bigger, wider questions. Now, such questions as the matrix ones need to have ticked mobile friendly, and that allows you to make sure that whatever the question is, it's the capacity and the width of it is designed so that it will come up on mobile devices automatically by ticking that option. You can actually reposition your question. For example, I've got it here in a particular way with single answers, and that's important in Matrix, depending on the way that you want your data collected as to how you direct that particular question of how the data is to be collected. I've got single answer because I want all the options to come out in one single column. But you may need, for example, a higher order analysis that needs separate columns, then you would do model answers. You can transpose the table, and instead of going vertically, horizontally, it would go around the other way. For example, here I transpose that table, and you can see now that it's gone spread, it's reversed the axes, and now I've got the 2 characteristics I want it to be defined and ranked, or I can go back to showing it in this manner. So whichever way you want your data to design, that's the way that you can design the question, which is really good. You can add in statements, you can delete them, you can add in labels if you want. Another one that's used and is quite popular with respondents is the ability to be able to slide questions. And as you see, you can see that I've got the slider inbuilt here, but I could change it to any of these other questions if I so be. For example, if I wanted it side by side, this is the image that it would come up with. At the moment, I'm going to leave it as slider, but if I decide that I think that it could be better accessed and answered by participants, I would do that. The open-ended questions here are text entry ones, and then most importantly is the amount of space that you provide for the answer. I normally do multi-line because a respondent may need to express themselves in more than just one line, so keep that in mind. So that's just a quick view of some of the different types of question types. You may have a survey that you want to import from. You can do that readily. But the most important thing is, before you even send this out, is the ability to be able to look through all the tools that are on the top ribbon, and I will take you through that. But one of the important options is survey options. The look and feel allows you to set in font, etc. But this is the important one here. This allows the save and continue, which is important for participants, so that if they don't continue and they want to save it, they can so, and then click back on the link and it takes them back to the place that they need to come to. It allows you to give open access or limited access or password protect. Here it gives, and most importantly, this survey expiry date, which is important to set in because you may need the responses ended within a certain time period, and it also allows you the type of ending you want. I often put in thank you and thanks for your time, etc. But you may need a specific type. I do have a library of responses according, as you can see, or I can make a new message for each survey that I design. And most importantly is the partial completes. And this happens in data where you often have partially completed, but you need to, after a certain time period, if the respondent hasn't come back to their browser to complete, then you need it deleted from your data set. So it's a good way of cleaning the data. Most importantly, always use your tools here. Make sure that you can spell check before you send out your survey. Here it allows you to print the survey so that you can see it in a written format. You can export it to Word, you can export the whole survey or import another survey into here. Most importantly, preview your survey. And preview allows you to bring it up to see what it would look like on a mobile phone. As you can see, it's coming up here. And then it will actually show you what the mobile phone looked like, and then what each of these questions looks like if you send it out. I always click through and make sure I'm happy with the design by ignore the validation to start with, to make sure that I've got all the questions in and it's flowing and the sections make sense and there's not too much. Or I actually don't untick the ignore validation and go through as if I'm answering the questions. And by the way, you can delete all the responses that come out of preview. And you can see that in the questions that you put a validation in of false, then it's actually catching. It's like, well, it's responding that you haven't answered this and please answer the question or before you go on. So it's giving you that really nice prompt. So you know that your validation and the way that you want your survey to flow is actually working. That's really important. You can test your survey, by the way, by getting a link that you're able to test on between your research team or even your supervisors. So that's important as well. So showing just the basic ideas of always going through and having a look at the questions is really important. And importantly, a tip, I always make sure that I go Control S all the time. So even though there's an automatic save of your edits, I'm forcing a save as I go through to make sure that all my minor edits, all my edits before I send it out are being always saved. And so most importantly, that you get yourself familiar. There is a help button within the platform that allows you to even have a look at basic and advanced ways of building your survey. Have a look at that. Be familiar with Qualtrics. It is very user-friendly. The only tricky part is practicing the rich content editor to make sure that you design and display the survey in the format that you want. I hope this has helped. Have a nice day, and I hope you enjoy Qualtrics.